Hello, you guys, and welcome to the show. You're listening to James C Starke Radio, and I have a treat for us today. I have the legendary Andy Cahan on the show today. He is probably the most famous musician you will never know. This man has played with the greats such as Zappa, Hendrix. He's done work with the Beatles, solo stuff with Ringo Starr, the Turtles. Just to name a few, it goes on and on and on. And getting this interview is quite a journey for me also, and that's a whole other story. But let's put it this way. It took me a few weeks and 4 states to finally put this all together. So what you're going to hear today is our phone interview, and I believe Andy is off the coast of Oxnard in his sailboat, and a couple little scratchy parts, but for the most part it sounds pretty clean. And then afterwards, you're going to hear a marathon of about 15 of his songs, some of his more famous work, with a lot of different people. There's also a really cool, a couple cool surprises in these songs you're going to hear that you'll never hear ever anywhere else. Andy was kind enough to let us hear it here. So anyways, listen to the interview. It's really cool. I'm a nervous wreck in this because, I mean, come on, it's Andy Cahan. So you guys will get a kick out of it. But I left it all uncut, unedited, so you can hear me in my nervous glory. And you'll hear Andy as eloquent as he is, and he is a great storyteller. I was going to put the music in during the interview, but I did not want to cut through his stories at all. They are so enthralling and just so cool. Just wait till you hear, especially the story of when he meets Jimi Hendrix and just how he meets everybody. It's incredible. So kick back, listen to the whole interview. Even the phone ringing is on there, and how I'm excited about putting him on. I am so honored to have him on this show. I can't say enough about him. He's a wonderful guy. And after the interview, it's going to go right into 15 songs out of the hundreds, if not thousands, that he's been a part of. But these are 15 of our favorites, and you guys will probably recognize a lot of these and didn't even know that Andy was on them. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start this thing in the background, and you'll hear me talking a little bit, and then you'll hear the phone ringing. And Andy's funny because he knew I was calling, and he left me hanging on this phone, just knowing that I was going to be nervous. So here it is, guys. Enjoy. Excited.
Hello, Andy. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Thank you so much for being on the show, Andy. I really appreciate it, man.
Oh, well, this is going to be fun. I really look forward to it.
I was just telling everybody that, I'm really honored to have you here today, man. Have a legend just like you. I mean, it's incredible, Andy. Your journey and your musical past and this life you've led is just amazing. And God, you are something. From one keyboard player to another, dude. I got it. It's hands down. You are the man. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, buddy. Can we just jump right in, buddy? Is that okay with you?
I'm ready. I'm ready to roll. I got my list of songs in front of me, so we can start anywhere you want and talk about anything you want to start to talk about.
I would love to, more than anything, to jump into the time machine and let's go back to 1965, if that's cool, man. And
yes,
awesome. Let's start there. Go ahead and tell me a little bit about like The Sun, or It May Be, She's Gone Away. Those great ones that you recorded back then. Tell me who you were playing with and how those came about.
Okay, at the ripe age of 14 years old, I was making monster movies, 8mm sound monster movies in 1963. And all of a sudden my sister says, why don't you look at the Ed Sullivan Show tonight? There's a group on called the Beatles. And of course, like everybody else on the planet Earth, that night changed my life. Wow. And I said to myself, I sure as hell am not going to pick up any screaming chicks making monster movies. I want to be a Beatle. So I immediately permastrated my curly hair to try to get that Beatle haircut look. And that lasted for about an hour. And then it all frizzled up. and I started a band, but I didn't play guitar, I played keyboards. And I really loved the way Dave Clark 5, the way Mike Smith stood in front of that red Vox organ.
Oh,
and it was the coolest thing in the world to me. So I went out and bought a Farfisa organ.
wow.
It was red. And I played bass with my left hand.
Okay.
So I started a band with my friends in school, and we rehearsed every day and did all the songs that I wrote. And I booked us in Yale College and all these amazing colleges and universities and high schools and whatchamacallit, like country clubs.
Sure. Okay.
And, in those days, the whole band would make $100 a night. And, it's $25 each. Anyhow, so we did go into the recording studio in 1965, and we recorded, a bunch of songs. And what's really wonderful is, these songs that you're going to hear, one take. That's it. One take.
Wow.
It was 2-track. So we recorded the band on track 1, and then the vocals and tambourine on track 2. And then it became a mono mix. But some of them are still, left to right stereo.
Sure.
Just like an old Beatles song, you'll hear the drums on the right side and the bass on the left side and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyhow, there was one song called She's Gone Away that in 1980, a gentleman by the name of David Gibson, who owned Moxie Records, was a 1960s garage band record label. And he met me, through the Turtles concerts. And he said, do you have any stuff from the 60s we can put out? And I said, sure. So we put out an EP of 4 songs, and this song called She's Gone Away, which is an instrumental, was one of those 4 songs on this EP. But it wasn't called Andy Cahan. It was called Johnny Farfisa, like Johnny Rotten.
Okay.
But it was Johnny Farfisa because I played a Farfisa organ.
Oh, okay.
So that's what his invention of my name was. But
okay.
in any event, the record sold for $2.50. And as time went on, it became extremely popular in the garage band cult era. And 4 different record labels licensed it from me. And it's now worth, if you look up the original single online, it's $75 for one copy.
Wow.
But anyhow, I went online just to look and see about Johnny Farfisa, and I found a band in Belgium, and they were performing this song called She's Gone Away on stage live, exactly like the record. And I freaked out, and I texted him, and I said, hey, it's Johnny Farfisa. How cool is that? And they said, well, would you do an interview for a magazine called Ugly Things out of Orange County, San Diego, somewhere. So I did a 6-page interview with them, and the magazine was friends with Munster Records in Spain. So Munster Records licensed 15 of these 1965 recordings and released an album called The Sky is Falling, The Best of Johnny Farfisa. And so that was released a year ago, and it's been doing very well. And then, so that's the story of my 1965. I never knew this would happen, but it happened.
That was your big induction. 1965
that was my
your year.
introduction to music, right?
Now you've played with some of the best out there. Before you tell me who you played with, give us just a few of your influences, if you would.
My influences, well, obviously the Beatles.
Yeah.
But all of the British invasion at that time in 1965, 66, 64, the Beau Brummels, the Zombies, the Kinks, Dave Clark 5, Peter and Gordon, Chad and Jeremy, Petula Clark, all the 60s.
Yeah, many of the great
hits
ones there, yeah.
But basically the Beatles was it for me. And that's how I wrote my songs. In fact, I taught myself how to play drums listening to Ringo.
Oh, okay.
Dun, dun, jack, dun. I just learned. I taught myself. And then the Beatles used very unorthodox chord progressions. They used flatted fifths and minor thirds and all these great chords. So I started writing songs, that were not normal, like not three chords, but I'd go like from a C to an F sharp minor to a B minor. I'd do all these weird songs.
Yeah, just like the Beatles used to do, all that crazy stuff.
Yeah, so they were the biggest influence in my life, for sure.
Yeah, that's a big influence. They've influenced a lot of people. Oh, my Lord. That's cool. What's your favorite Beatles album? Just for out of curiosity. Do you have a favorite one? Or are you going to tell me the whole thing?
Yeah, the White Album.
Okay.
I like, but it's like tie score with Rubber Soul and Revolver.
Okay.
And then, of course, Sgt. Pepper. I mean, they're all tie score to me. But, I guess Revolver and Rubber Soul, those are amazing melodies and performances. But, things like Everybody's Got Something to Hide Except for Me and My Monkey or,
Yeah.
I mean, you can go on and on forever about how amazing they were.
Yeah, they were. Let's get back to you now.
Okay.
Take us to 1968 and the single Let Us Live. Tell us about that, Andy.
Oh, well, that was with Jimmy Carl Black, the Indian of the group, with Frank Zappa.
Yes.
I had I got introduced to Scooby, the Musicians Union representative. I was working with Dr. John the Night Tripper, and we were touring, and I was writing songs with him. And so he took me down to the Musicians Union's office and said to Scooby, "This guy's really good." He pinned a little note on my lapel and said, the note says, "This guy's really good, hire him." So Scooby turned me on to Jimmy Carl Black from Zappa. And in 1968, Jimmy and I started a band called Geronimo Black. Okay. And Let Us Live was chosen as the single when we signed a record deal with Russ Regan on Uni Records. And that was released in 1972. But it's just a protest song about all the, the same thing we're protesting today, war.
Yeah, sure.
So that's what that was all about.
Now, really quick, I want to let everybody know that's listening is that we're actually playing a marathon of Andy's music after the interview today. So stay tuned because everything he's talking about, we're just going to blast everything in chronological order so you guys can hear everything he's done. And I think I have what did you send me, Andy? About 15 songs from your career.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, yeah.
14 of them, okay. And you've recorded hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I'm glad I got a hold of these.
And there's just one of them I forgot to send you. Damn it, I'm so pissed.
Oh, don't worry about it. Send it to me, and we'll make sure it gets out there so everybody can hear it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
For sure,
when I get off the phone with you, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, no problem. I'll post it right up.
It's called Opium Rose, and I wrote it with Dr. John.
Awesome.
And it's when he just passed away, and I knew his daughters and his wife and everything. So this was the only song I wrote with him. And the Neville brothers were supposed to record it, but they never did. But it's up on YouTube. So it's just the demo of Dr. John and myself doing this Opium Rose, which I'll send you the file when I get off.
That would be great. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's going to like that.
The most exciting part about moving to Los Angeles in 1968 was working for Pulsar Records, which was a subsidiary of Mercury Records, and the president's name was Irwin Garr, and he was a very close friend of my mother. And so I got a job, $35 a week, to be the gopher and pick up musicians from their homes and take them to recording studio sessions, and then I would take photographs of, the sessions and in the office. So I got to meet Dr. John the Night Tripper in Pulsar Records' office.
That's so
and I also
cool.
met a guy named Graham Bond.
Oh, wow.
And Graham Bond had a band called the Graham Bond Organization in the early 60s with Ginger Baker and Jack Bruce.
Oh, man.
And this is before they met Eric Clapton. So Graham Bond had an instrument called the Mellotron, which is the same instrument the Beatles used for Strawberry Fields and Moody Blues used for a lot of their, Tuesday afternoon, a lot of that. Anyway, the Mellotron is a whole bunch of tape loops. So when you hit a C note and it's set on flute, it's an actual flute player playing a C note, and it's on a tape recorder. So they made a tape loop, so it has playback heads, 88 playback heads for each note, and you can get strings or flutes or voice or whatever.
Now,
So
I got to play with one of those when I was a kid. One of my first teachers had a rig like that in her basement.
oh man,
And
unbelievable.
that was the coolest thing. And to this day, something struck a chord in me back then. And to this day, I've got all kinds of crazy, all the modern versions of something like this, to where you can hit your buttons and have the actual recordings on them and stuff. And it's so cool how technology's changed, but yet it still has the roots of that stuff. It's so cool. But I'll never forget that little thing she had down in that basement. I used to love it. She used to get so angry with me because I would always blow off the piano because I wanted to play with that. It had all the sound,
Yeah, it was a great instrument. The only problem was you couldn't bump into it.
Yeah.
If you bumped it, it would knock all the record playback heads out of whack, so it wouldn't work.
That's why she'd tell me, stay away, stop messing with it, don't do this. I always have to fix it when you're done. And Andy, do you remember, we'll get back on track here in a second, but do you remember, who your first teacher was?
My first teacher was Mac Rabenek, Dr. John. He showed me all the Professor Longhair, all the cool-ass New Orleans licks and blues and stuff.
Cool.
But the actual first teacher was my father when I was 10 years old. He never really played piano, but as a hobby he did. And the Snake Charmer song that goes, bum, 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 bum,
Oh, yeah,
bum,
yeah,
bum,
yeah.
bum. Right.
Bum, bum,
So
bum, bum.
we sat down at the piano, and he said, do what I do. And he takes his right hand, and he plays a triad, a D minor triad. He goes, dum, 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 dum. And then with his left hand, he goes, bum, 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 bum. And I copied him exactly. Then he says, okay, now we're going to switch hands. Now with your left hand, make a D minor triad, and with your right hand, do the melody. And so within 10 minutes, I learned how to play left and right hand melody and lead at 10 years old.
Oh, that's great. Now, really quick, Andy,
that was my first lesson.
a lot of people, that's awesome. A lot of people listening aren't musicians, and they don't understand triad. They try to explain that's a chord. And
it's a 3-note chord.
There
yes.
you go. You got the root, the third, and the fifth, and that takes your triad.
Yeah, it could be minor or major.
Yeah, either one. But it's those three.
On this particular song, it was a minor.
There you go. Which kids,
G,
if you're
F, and
listening, when it's a minor one, you just flatten that third note and you got it.
Exactly.
So, there you go.
Yes.
What's go ahead. I'm sorry. Go back to what we were talking about there.
Yeah, so anyhow, Scooby got me turned on to Jimmy Carl Black, and we recorded that song, Let Us Live, on this Uni album. But before that, when I first moved out there, working for Pulsar Records and Graham Bond, Graham calls me up one day. He says, at that time, I was playing a Baldwin electric harpsichord that went through a Leslie speaker. It was really amazing. So he calls me up. He says, bring your harpsichord. I had a VW bus. Bring your harpsichord. We got a recording session at TTG Studios on Sunset and Highland. So I go to the studio, and Lowell George from Little Feat is playing flute, and Jack Cassidy from the Jefferson Airplane is on the bass, and Mitch Mitchell was setting up the drums, and Graham Bond was on the Hammond B3, and I was setting up my Baldwin electric harpsichord, and I felt something come into the room behind me, and I turned around, and there was Jimi Hendrix walking in with these two gorgeous blonde chicks. One of them carrying his amplifier, one of them carrying his guitar, and he walks in the studio and he sets up right next to me.
What's going through your head at that moment, Andy? You got to be freaking out, man. What's going on right there?
So I'm 20 years old, and there I am 2 feet from Jimi Hendrix, and we're playing the blues in A for 2 hours straight with all these amazing celebrity musicians. And that happened 2 weeks after I moved to L.A.
Man, I got goosebumps all over me listening to this, Andy. That's got to be...
the best part of the recording session is when we were all finished. So we were smoking a joint in the corner of the room. And this roadie guy and me and Hendrix were standing there sharing a joint. So Hendrix starts to pretend that he's a guitar. And he goes, starts singing. And I pretended I was the drummer, so I started to go, and then the other roadie guy pretended he was a bass player, so he went, So we're sharing a joint and passing the joint around as we're jamming with our voices.
You're like inventing the first beat, the beginnings of beatbox.
Wow. That was amazing stuff.
You and Jimi Hendrix, man. Wow.
And Hendrix was like the sweetest, beautiful person. No ego, zero ego. The guy was just like the most mellow, cool-ass guy. And I was just completely, I didn't realize till way later how cool it was to be there with him.
Sure.
It was 1968, December. Wow. So that was amazing. And then I get a call from Graham Bond 2 weeks later, and he says, Buddy Miles is playing at the Del Mar racetrack down in San Diego, and he usually has 2 drummers, himself and another drummer. Mm-hmm. And the other drummer got sick, and he said, do you know any good drummers? I says, well, I play drums. He says, well, okay, you got the gig. So 3 weeks after I moved to L.A., I was on the stage in Del Mar playing drums with Buddy Miles.
Oh, man.
So this is like I'm 20 years old during this stuff. So I got introduced to celebrity immediately when I moved to Los Angeles. It was amazing.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
Tell us, if we can just jump ahead just a little bit.
Sure.
The story about how you wrote and recorded "Falling in Love is a Stupid Habit." That's got something to do with Zappa and his house or something, isn't it?
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So Jimmy Carl Black and I had the band Geronimo Black.
Yeah.
And I was friends with all of the original members of the Mothers of Invention. Bunk Gardner, man. Roy Estrada, Ian Underwood, Ruth Underwood, Artie Tripp, Bunk Gardner, Buzz Gardner, and Motorhead Sherwood, and Elliot Ingber. And these are all the original Mothers. Anyway, so after we recorded the Geronimo Black album, we were touring as Geronimo Black, and Jimmy was Zappa would come up on the stage with us and jam with us at these different gigs. And finally, Jimmy says, "Hey, man, you got any material for me? I'd like to do some more of your songs." So he says, "Sure, come on over." So Motorhead and Jimmy Carl Black and I went over to Zappa's house on Mulholland, and at the top of Laurel in Mulholland, and walked into his living room, and in the middle of his living room was this like 14-foot circle, and you walk over to it and you look down 20 feet, and at the bottom of this cave, or this circle cave, was a grand piano with one microphone.
Oh,
so we walked down the step ladder and went down to the grand piano, and Zappa started to play this song, Falling in Love is a Stupid Habit. And then I sat down and I played it, and Zappa sang it. So that was the demo that you hear, is me playing the piano and Zappa singing the song for Jimmy. And there's actually parts in it where he goes 1, 2, 3, 4 to show it's a break and all that stuff. Yeah. So it's a very cool ass recording.
That's so cool, man. Yeah. You have really met some great ones, man. How about God, there's so many of them. The Turtles. Tell me the story about what you did with that song.
Well, let's see. With Jimmy Carl Black, we recorded at Cherokee Studios. It was a 4-track studio in Box Canyon, Panga, and I had gone on the road with Little Richard, this drummer from the Robs, named Craig Cranf. The Robs were the house band for Dick Clark's American Bandstand. So Craig calls me up one day and says, Little Richard wants to go on the road. So I went on the road with Little Richard, and I'll tell you a whole bunch of stories about that.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait to hear those. That had to be.
The Turtles, there was a movie made called Let the Good Times Roll, and Little Richard was in it, and the producer, Richard Nader, wanted to overdub and fix some of the audio. So there was some keyboard organ parts that he wanted to fix. So I went to Cherokee Studios, and Flo and Eddie of the Turtles were also there, recording a soundtrack to a cartoon called Dirty Duck. And then they changed the title to Cheap. But it was a cartoon made by the Murakami Swenson Wolf team, the same people that did the Valley of the Jolly Green Giant and all this stuff. Anyway, so Mark Volman says to me, hey, we're looking for a keyboard player to go on the road because our keyboard player, Bruce Robb, was one of the engineers at Cherokee Studios, so he couldn't leave. He had to work in the studio. So that's how I got the job with the Turtles, and that was in 1973.
Wow.
So ever since then, I've been playing with the Turtles.
That's so cool. I saw that video of you guys. Gosh, you're playing. I can't remember where you're at. It's so funny though. The singer, you guys are playing the oldies there. The singer, I can't recognize who he is. I know you told me who he was before, but I just could not. I can't place him now. I'm drawing a blank. It's hard to sit here and talk to you and try to maintain my coolness, dude. Okay, I got to be honest here. I have goosebumps all over me just knowing I'm talking to you. But I saw the video, and he says at one time, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, when he tells all the kids in the audience to look at their parents because they're all jamming to the oldies, and he tells them all to run for the car while they still can.
Oh, that was a live show we did for the Doobie Brothers at the BR Cone Winery.
That's what it was.
It was an outdoor venue, and we would do a cover of Daydream Believer by the Monkees.
That's what it was. Okay.
And I would start off the song, danka, 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 and they lied. They said, Andy Cahan was the original piano player on this song. But it's not the truth. It was just a lie. In fact, they told everybody the bass player was the original bass player on, My Girl, Boom, Boom, Boom. And that the drummer played with Santana and the guitar player would play with Stevie Ray Vaughan. It's all Flo and Eddie satire, humor. Okay. So anyhow, we did this song. And in one of the breaks where Howard Kalin, the lead singer, would ask the audience to sing along, wake up, sleep.
Yeah, the whole crowd goes for it.
And that's when he would tell all the kids to ask their moms and dads that question.
Yeah, that was hilarious. That's
on that video.
I was watching all your stuff. That's why I couldn't remember which song that one was. But God, I'll never forget. That was so funny. That was so funny. Man. So you did God, Happy Together was one of the things he had done live with them. Rebecca, Best Possible Me, Keep It Warm.
Yes. We recorded 2 albums for Columbia Records. One was called Illegal, Immoral, and Fattening, and it was recorded live at the Roxy. And a recording studio named Haji, Haji, had a truck with a 24-track recorder in the truck. Oh. And they used extended reels, like a normal 24-track 2-inch reel was a 15-minute tape, but they had these huge reels that lasted like 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So it was 3 times as large. So we recorded the album live at the Roxy. That was the first album. The second album is the one, that first album has a song, Rebecca, that we recorded at Haji.
Okay.
After we left the Roxy, we went in the studio and recorded Rebecca. But then the second album we recorded was called Moving Targets, and there's 2 wonderful songs that features the piano called Best Possible Me, where the actual violin arrangements were created from my piano part, which was an honor. I had all these, and then the other one was called Keep It Warm, and that was like the hit. So that was really
that's a great song.
Wonderful stuff. But I just got to just reverse a little bit and go back to meeting Little Richard.
Oh yeah.
So what happens is Little Richard's manager and partner was a guy named Bumps Blackwell, and Bumps was the co-writer of Tutti Frutti and Good Golly Miss Molly and all these Little Richard hits. He co-wrote them.
Oh, wow.
And he became his manager. So Bumps calls me up one day and he says, "We're doing the Grammys." And Little Richard and Chuck Berry were asked to introduce the Song of the Year. And so I was chosen as the music director for the Grammys.
Oh, cool.
So there I am in 1973, sitting in this tiny room with a little upright piano, and Chuck Berry and Little Richard are there. So it's the 3 of us rehearsing the show, because I was going to show the band all this stuff. And to me, that was like the most amazing thing in the planet Earth.
I was going to ask you that, Eddie.
Because there I am standing there with Richard and Chuck, just the 3 of us. And, the Beatles idolized. Paul McCartney idolized Little Richard, and John Lennon idolized Chuck Berry. So it's like a full circle. I'm sitting in this room rehearsing with the 2 guys that the Beatles idolized, and I idolized the Beatles. So that was just amazing. That was totally amazing.
How do you manage to keep your feet on the ground at that age, being around all these people and not letting all this go to your head and staying so cool?
Oh, I was too stoned.
Oh, well.
I was too stoned to remember shit. You can't remember anything from the 60s. If you can, you're a genius.
Or a liar.
Luckily, luckily I saved every contract, every letter, every postcard, every poster, every sticker, every button, every tape, every photograph. And it made it very easy for me to write this book. It's a photo book, like a coffee table photo book. And it has all these great stories with amazing photographs of all these celebrities.
I can't wait till that comes out.
So that was amazing doing the Grammys for Little Richard. But I'll tell you what was even more amazing. When I first moved to L.A. and I was sitting at my harpsichord fooling around, I heard the Turtles, do "You Showed Me What to Do." And I wrote a song that was similar to that. And while I was writing the song, I had a premonition. And I said, and the premonition was a Beatle was in my house. And not only was he in my house, but he was sitting next to me, and he took his shoes off. Oh. And this is in 1968, I had this premonition. So later on in 1991, Harry Nilsson brings Ringo Starr over to my studio, my living room studio. And Ringo sits down next to me, and he takes his shoes off.
Wow.
So it was a real premonition that really came true.
Yeah, that's just amazing. Now, you did a whole bunch of
songs with Harry Nilsson.
Tons of them.
Yeah.
You did like Honky Tonk Hell, right, with him? And
yes.
Oh, this could be the night. You have a special version of that. There was like 3 extra verses on there or something in the original.
Yes, unbelievable.
Yeah.
We
Tell me about
recorded that, and he wrote some extra verses right there in my living room. He says, hey, let's throw some more verses on it. So that is a demo. The whole name of the whole album is called Papa's Got a Brand New Robe, and you can actually Google that. And Mark Hudson put out a YouTube video of like 6 or 7 of those songs.
And there was like 245-pound man or something is on that one too, isn't it?
Yeah, that's original by Harry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Harry was the most gentle, intelligent, sweet, incredible person. The only problem was that when he recorded Pussycats with John Lennon, John Lennon was doing the primal scream, which meant you had to scream at the top of your vocals. You'd go, ah, and scream. And so Harry was doing the primal scream, and he literally lost his voice. Ooh. So he couldn't sing all the high notes he used to be able to sing. So when we recorded in my living room, it was all baritone and tenor vocals. You know, he did songs like Mother-in-Law, you know, and stuff like that. And we did Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow, and we did a song he wrote with John Lennon called You Are Here. I should have put that on. There's so many songs.
Oh, I know. We'd have like a 12-day show if we played everything you did.
Unbelievable.
Maybe we should. What the hell? We'll just put it on and play them all.
So,
was that the one?
I just want to... Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that the one where they had to... You sang on, they adjusted your vocals or something, or you had to sing with the women and made it really high?
That was with Ringo Starr on a Kinky Friedman album. Ringo played the part of Jesus Christ.
Oh, that's... wait. Give me Men's Room LA or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And
they hired me to play the organ, Hammond B3, and only in the section that Ringo's did his speech. And then they VSO'd me singing oohs and ahs, and they VSO'd it, very speed oscillators, so it would sound like chicks singing. High vocals. So that was cool that I was on a Ringo song before I even met him.
That's so cool.
Because Harry brought him over to my house years later.
That's so neat, man. Wow.
But Harry was so awesome because we would sit there and get wasted. You know, he had phlebitis and neuropathy and diabetes, and you know, he wasn't in good shape. And of course, he couldn't sing high notes. But we still had a ball. We still had a lot of fun. And he would always say, "Let's go for a ride." And he surprised me by taking me to all these amazing people's homes. So one day we go over to Timothy Leary's house, you know, and he knocks on the door, and Timothy Leary answers and grabs Harry by the cheeks on his face and gives him a big wet kiss. And then he says, "Who's this?" And Harry says, "Oh, it's my friend Andy." So Timothy grabs me and gives me a big wet kiss, and we go into his house and jam with him. And oh my God, it was incredible.
That had to be. I'd love to be a fly on the wall with any of these stories. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, it's all in my book. I'm just skimming the surface here.
When is that going to be coming out?
The editor, Jeff Tomarkin, is the guy who wrote the book on the Jefferson airplane, and he also wrote the book Shell Shocked for Howard Kalin, the lead singer of the Turtles. Okay. He was the editor of Gold Mine magazine, which was the 60s collector's magazine. Okay. And he's interviewed everybody on the planet Earth. So he's editing my book because I'm not a writer, and my spelling and my quotes and my capitalization and paragraphs. So he's making it smooth reading, like a real book.
Good, okay.
But I have millions. I have 2,000 photographs in the book.
I cannot wait to see this. I cannot wait to read it.
So that'll be out in about 3 months.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. But, you know, I just tell the stories of how Harry would take me to Joe Walsh's house. And Joe Walsh says, "Hey, you want to hear a song I just recorded?" And it turns out to be Walk Away Renee by the Left Bank. And then he would take me over to Bill Martin's house. He's the guy who wrote the movie Harry and the Hendersons. You know, about that.
Yeah, Sasquatch.
Sasquatch. Yeah. And Harry was Harry Nielsen.
Oh, really?
That's who we named Harry after, Harry Nielsen.
Why?
And of course, Bill Martin played with Linda Ronstadt. And great stories about him. just like
speaking of
and meeting Ringo and going over to Ringo's house, and Ringo had these two acoustic guitars, a red one and a blue one with the Ringo Starr in inlays in the necks, so that it's a Ringo Starr guitar. So I'm sitting there with Harry and Ringo, and I go, "Do you mind if I play your guitar for a second?" He says, "No, go right ahead." So I pick up the guitar and I start strumming a G chord, jing jang and jang ding jang, and just fooling around. And Harry starts singing, "I listen for your footsteps coming up the drive," and then Ringo joins him, and we do, that song from the White Album. I forgot the title now, but "Don't Pass Me By." That's the title. So here I am with Ringo Starr and Harry Nilsson singing "Don't Pass Me By" in Ringo's house. I mean, it's shit like this that's in my book that I go, "Oh my God, how did I do that?"
Man, what a life you've had, Andy. Now, speaking of movies, we were talking about that. You did a soundtrack for a movie, Me, Myself, and I, if I'm correct.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Now, who starred in that movie?
This guy named Pablo, I forgot his last name, but he was his job was doing titles for major motion pictures. But he was able to put together this movie called Me, Myself, and I with George Segal and Joe Beth Williams. And he's asked Harry Nilsson to do the music for the movie. So at that time, I had a 4-track Fostex cassette player and a DAT machine. So I would program the music, all the music, on my Ensoniq Performance sampler, a 1988 sequencer sampler, and synchronized it with a sync track on the Fostex cassette, and that left us 3 open vocal tracks for Harry to sing vocals. So he wrote the title track song, Me, Myself, and I, and it sounded wonderful. I mean, and we were sitting there in this premiere movie theater, and over the big speakers, and it sounded like God. And Harry and I are laughing our asses off, knowing that we recorded it on a 4-track cassette player. So that was really hilarious. and of course we did all the filler music too. Every scene had its own little dynamic music stinger that we had to create.
That's something, man. That is something. Yeah. What? Tell us about Lasso in El Paso.
Well, that was the one I did with the Men's Room L.A. The Ringo Starr played Jesus Christ, and he was sitting on the toilet, and he tells the story, and I play the Hammond B3 and these angelic girl voices.
Right. Okay, that was the same one. Okay, my mistake. I'm sorry, but
that was that.
Okay, I thought that was something different. My bad. Are you putting anything else out now, or are you still recording?
Well, there's 2 albums out on Munster Records in Spain. The first one was that Johnny Farfisa 1965 stuff.
Okay.
And the second one I just released January, and it's called Geronimo Black Freak Out Fantasia. And it's 1968 live recordings of us performing at Lompoc Prison and a place called the Ash Grove on Melrose Avenue, and the Topanga Corral. So it's all live recordings. There's, I think, just one studio recording that we did, which was really amazing because it was done at Larrabee Studios, which was owned by Carole King and Goffin, her husband. And we recorded this one song called Uneasy. And then when I came out of the studio to listen back, there was Frank Zappa sitting there. And he was digging on it. And he says, "Hey, Andy, that's a great song. Love it." So that was like the biggest compliment in the world, to have Zappa come to the session unannounced. And then when I get done recording the bass track, there he is sitting there going, "Hey, man, that was great." So that was quite amazing.
That's so cool, Andy. You got such great stories, man. What a history.
And it's all in my book. It's all in my book.
Oh, I can't wait for that to come out. I'm glad we're getting little snippets of it.
Yeah.
That's so cool. When are you going to play again?
I play locally in the desert. There's a place called the Tack Room Tavern at the Polo Grounds, and I have a trio. The bass player is Mitch Weissman, who was the original Paul McCartney for Beatlemania. So he sings and plays his ass off.
Oh, that's so cool.
The drummer's a guy named Ben. He's a substitute drummer because my normal drummer couldn't make it. But anyhow, we do Beatles and 60s and classic rock. And I do private parties, a lot of private parties. I do the Thunderbird Country Club where Obama is a member. I haven't met him, but it's a very prestigious country club, and I play piano at their dinners and stuff. And New Year's I played for Irving Winkler, who was a gigantic motion picture producer who's done Rocky and a billion movies. You can look him up. So I played a private party for him at the Ponds Estate, which is this gigantic mansion in Palm Springs for his family and stuff. So I do a lot of private parties.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I still get up on that.
Yeah, I play piano. I'm not such a good singer. I mean, even though I sang a lot in 1968, it wasn't really a lead singer's voice. It was more like talking, singing, and screaming.
I hear you.
So, but anyways, you'll on that song "Let Us Live," that's me singing it, so you can hear it. It's like we were born. It's like yelling instead of singing. So,
of all these things you've done in recording, what is like you have so many of them. It's going to be a tough question for you, but what is like the highlight of all these memories? Like, which one really stands out the most to you?
Well, the best possible me, the piano part on the Moving Targets album by Flo and Eddie. And that's my personal favorite because I love the piano part, and I love the fact that the string arranger, I forgot his name, he's like really famous guy. He's in my book. I just can't pull the name out of my head. Okay. He copied my piano part and did the string arrangement around that. And
that's what you were saying.
It was such a compliment.
So cool. That has to be. I mean, God, that is so cool.
Yeah. So that was a highlight. And, of course, just doing a song called You Are Here, the song that John Lennon and Harry Nilsson wrote. You remember the John and Yoko famous You Are Here thing? Mm-hmm. It's like just the big thing. It says You Are Here. Yeah. So John and Harry wrote a song called You Are Here. And nobody's ever recorded or heard it. So Harry and I recorded it. And that was, to me, humongous. And then, of course, I asked Harry, would you mind singing one of my songs? And he says, okay, I'll trade you. You do a song I want to do, and then I'll sing one of your songs. So we did a song called, oh no, I can't remember it. Oh well, it's a, dun, 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 dun. It's an old, like Glenn Miller song. Okay. I Know Why. That's the title, called I Know Why. And so we recorded it, and it had trumpets and trombones and saxophones and all this violins and stuff. And then Harry sang one of the songs I wrote called Cahan. And they had a lot of high notes. And literally what happened was he tried to hit the high notes, and he had to go to the bathroom and throw up because it hurt him so much to try to go high. Oh. But that was nobody's ever had Harry Nilsson sing their song except for Randy Newman, where Harry sang that whole Harry sings Newman. Nilsson sings Newman.
Okay.
So it was a gigantic compliment to have Harry Nilsson sing the song I wrote. Wow. So that blew me away.
That's so cool. I feel like I'm in history class today. I feel like I'm sitting in music history class. This is so cool. This is so awesome. You have no idea. What do you do? Okay, this is a funny question because I'm sure it's changed over the years. So every time you're getting ready to go up on stage, we all have our little rituals and stuff. And now I'm sure you probably walk right up there like it's nothing. You've been doing this for years. But back in the day when you were first starting, you had to play with all these guys on these stages and do all this. Did you do anything special to prepare yourself before you went on? Like get yourself psyched up or just go for it?
I did get, backstage jitters where you're pacing and walking around and pacing and pacing.
Sure, we all.
And one foolish time, our manager at that time was Skip Taylor, and he was also managing Canned Heat, and he had some very powerful marijuana called Thai stick.
Oh,
so I was foolish enough to have a couple of hits before I hit the stage, and I get up there on the stage and I'm looking at the keyboard and I go, "What?
Yeah, what is this?
What am I going to do? I don't remember anything. I don't even know what to do." And then finally, when the band started, I finally, okay, I remember now. So I was so stoned. It was amazing.
And now you probably just walk right up there with no jitters, huh? Are you still you still get a little butterflies?
If it's a big concert, sure. Yeah. But just playing piano and doing these small little gigs, it's nothing. But when you're in front of 50,000 people or 75,000 people, when I did the national anthem for the Los Angeles Rams and the Minnesota Vikings in 1989, and there we were in the middle of the football field, just Flo and Eddie, the two lead singers of the Turtles, and myself, playing the national anthem. And what the killer was that as soon as I hit a note on the organ, it would reverberate around this gigantic stadium.
Oh, sure.
So it would take 3 seconds for the noise to come back and hit you. So when you go bum, ba, bum, 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 and then all of a sudden bum, ba, bum, bum, and it comes right back at you 3 seconds later. So you had to ignore the echo and stick to the original. They gave us one monitor just so we can hear ourselves.
Sure.
So, I have got videos of all this shit. It's amazing.
That is so cool. Where can we find some of your videos and hear some of your music? Do you have a website or anything we can go just see everything?
Well, yeah. If you Google my name on YouTube, you'll come up with all this. Actually,
everything,
I have a YouTube channel.
Okay.
It's a very weird name.
What's it called?
It's Snarful Homina. It's SNARFELHAMANA. But you don't even have to do that. You just Google my name, Andy Cahan, and you can put in Turtles, or you can put in Nielsen, or you can put in Dr. John. And I also have a lot of recordings of me playing with Dean Torrance and Eric Burden and Bobby Hatfield and all these people on the Flo and Eddie radio show we did.
Okay.
So it's all on YouTube, and all my monster movies that I made before I became a Beatle, they're all on YouTube too. So I have over 1,200,000 hits on my YouTube channel.
Awesome. That is great, man. That is great.
Yeah.
That is cool.
So I hope I provided you with a bunch of stuff that you can...
Oh, God, yes. I mean, this is wonderful. What were some of your biggest challenges? I mean, it sounds like everything was awesome. I'm sure you had lots of challenges along the way. And not just smoking Thai stick before a concert. What are some of the tougher things that you had to go through to get through a lot?
I don't know. Sometimes personality conflicts, which is standard in a lot of bands. There's always one guy that you just don't get along with. Mm-hmm. And that happened in every band I was in. Yeah, I mean, it just happens. There's always one guy that just, he's not your cup of tea.
Sure.
So conflicts like that. But other than that, everything else was, the only frustrating thing about my career is since I played with all these amazing celebrities and done everything in the world and toured and did TV shows and movie soundtracks, I'm still a starving musician. It's sort of like the same thing with Harry Nilsson. He had such an amazing career, and we were trying to get him a record deal, and nobody would sign him. until he died. Then they put out a movie of him and all this other stuff. It's just like incredibly insane. The music industry, as far as I'm concerned, really sucks right now. In the good old days, you had albums and vinyl and tapes that you can literally sell. Like I sold 1,000 units of this. But today it's all download. And you got to trust some kid sitting at a computer to pay you for these downloads. And I tell you, I've had conversations with a lot of people who've had hit records, and they don't get paid shit. The only way anybody can make money these days is going on the road.
Yeah, it's all tickets and merchandise anymore.
Because you all you have to do is go, "Help Me, Rhonda," and you can hear it on YouTube free.
Yeah.
Any song that you want to hear is free on YouTube. Boom. You don't even have to listen to Spotify or all these other things. Just go to YouTube and just type in the song you want, and there's 8 versions of it. Yeah. It's amazing. So nobody gets paid anymore.
I know. We got to figure out a way to change this because I'm so sick of hearing this. Not the complaining part. I'm not sick of hearing that. God, complain all you want. Everybody needs to complain more about this. But we need to figure out some system somehow. I don't know. Maybe I need to create a label or something that we can all just get what we're supposed to get. I don't know. One of us can. We can all work together and pull this off because this has got to change.
Technology has caused this problem. And it really is a serious problem because songwriters are not getting paid. Unless you do a television soundtrack or a motion picture soundtrack. But all the, you listen to all this hip hop and rap and stuff. Yeah, I don't know how they make money.
Anymore, it's like you got to book your gig and you got to set up your merchandise booth just like you used to. But now you got to carry everything. If you got to sell your hard copies and and you got to sell your shirts and all your merchandise and this and that. You make your bucks because once it goes online, you're right. Everybody steals it. My last album I put out got ripped off from so many websites that are putting it out there that weren't even on they weren't contracted with me or anything, and there's nothing I can do about it. There's some Russian websites and a few other foreign ones that have just robbed me blind. And
I've done the copyright complaint on YouTube, and they pull the video, and then somebody else uploads it.
Yeah.
As soon as somebody pulls it off, somebody else is going to upload it. So it's impossible.
Yeah, so we got to figure out something.
That's the bad part about it. And there's a great interview with Joe Walsh that you can Google, and he explains how music today, it's not like, you have a drummer and a guitar player and a bass player, and they're playing real emotional music. It's like you got programmed shit. And it's a programmed drums and programmed this and programmed that and looped vocals and God. I grew up in the world of real musicians playing real instruments.
Yeah, that's what I did too. The first time I was in the studio and someone tried to loop a track of my vocals, I went nuts. I was not having that. But he's like, the chorus will sound the same every single time. It'll be perfect. I'm like, that's not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's supposed to be loose and
exactly.
Natural.
I don't.
And that's another thing that bums me out about the desert. A lot of the duos, they use loops. They use pre-recorded tracks of these songs, and they sing along to it. And to me, that's cheeseball. That is so cheesy. I'd rather hear a live band and a live musician than hear tracks.
Sure.
People singing along.
Sure,
that really bothers the hell out of me.
I agree. Definitely agree on that one. Let me ask you, I want to take up all your time, Andy. God, I wish I could spend the whole day with you. Actually, I want to come out and play on your sailboat with you sometime.
For sure. From Phoenix to Channel Islands Harbor, it's only 8 hours?
We're going to do that soon. It's no problem with me. I'll make it work. You out there. Can you give, what you're saying now, with everything happening, what kind of advice can you give to the young kids coming up, to the younger bands and the musicians that are just breaking into this industry? What kind of advice can you give them?
Stay original. Try not to copy anybody, even though it's really difficult.
Yes.
But because music repeats itself all the time. But stay original and try to play real instruments and don't use phony drum machines and loops and stuff. Try to be as real as possible and stick to your guns. Don't let anybody tell you what to do. Do what you want to do. Because as soon as you start listening to all these opinions, it's going to screw you up and you're going to be confused and you don't know where to go. So just stick to your guns and do what you want to do and be yourself. And that's basically what my advice is.
That's great advice. That is really great advice.
Yeah.
Well, Andy, I want to thank you so much for joining me today.
You are totally welcome.
We're going to do this again in person when that book comes out. I'm going to come out and visit you.
When the book comes out, yeah, man,
And,
it's going to be awesome.
That's going to be wonderful. I cannot wait for that. Is there anything else that we left out that you'd like to say, or do you want to say hello to anybody before we go here?
Like I said, I have a YouTube. You could just Google my name. Get the spelling right, Andy, and then Cahan, and that's the spelling. And then you can Google it, and you'll see all my stuff.
Great.
I got like 500 sailing movies because I love to go sailing.
Yeah, I know. You have stuff all over the place on there. I was totally trolling you. Checking everything out. But thank you so much, Andy, buddies. Keep in touch, okay? And
yes.
We'll talk really soon, and I can't wait to get a hold of that book. I want an autographed copy, too. I'm demanding.
Oh, you got it. You got it for sure. You got it for sure.
All right, buddy. I will talk to you soon, man. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, Andy. Peace, buddy.
You're totally welcome. Totally.
Take care, brother. I'll see you soon, man. Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, and thank you.
You're my pleasure, man. I'll see you later, buddy. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Take care.
You guys, that was the legendary Andy Cahan right here on James C. Starke Radio. I'm going to let loose now with a barrage of about 15 of his awesome songs. We're going to start, I'll just give you a list really quick. We're going to start all the way back in 65 and bring it all the way up to his latest. We're going to start with Let Us Live, then She's Gone Away, 245-Pound Man. It may be On Your Way to the Sun, some stuff from Flo and Eddie, some stuff from Zappa, some stuff from the Turtles. Man, this goes on and on. It'll take me forever to get through this list. Just check this out. Enjoy the hell out of it, you guys. And I will be back later, man. Peace out.
His destiny. Those who lived before made their own rules, which was what they wanted. But they're hung up, they can't see. Why can't they see? Why can't anyone see? Let a new generation live. Let a new generation live. Let a new generation live. generation live.
What's a 245-pound man like me doing on a woman like you? Whoa, 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 whoa. And what's a girl like me, 5'3", eyes are blue, doing what I'm doing to you? Oh, whoa, oh, whoa, so darling, won't you teach me how to redneck tonight? I like to hold my whiskey and my winter real tight. Hold on, pretty mama, we could dance all night. We do a little two-step, go blah 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 and more blah. Blah blah, he say blah 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 blah. But blah 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 more blah blah more blah blah. And blah 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 blah. What's a 245-pound man like me doing on a woman like you? Whoa, 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 whoa. So darling, won't you teach me how to redneck tonight? I like to hold my whiskey and my will real tight. Hold on, pretty mama, we could dance all night. We do a little two-step romance, alright. I've always been a city boy all my life, but I love to learn the two-step, won't you be my wife? I am just a country girl doing what I'm doing. I'm taking care of business and I don't care who I ruin. I hope you had a good time, I had mine. If I were you, I'd see a doctor in good time. We only had a one night and that went real fast. Sorry if I hurt you, baby, but so long, goodbye. Hotel hell, and I don't feel well.
Sad and lonely. Seems like I'm going off my way today. We'll finish only without a penny to my name. Just the same. It may be true that I'm through with her. But I'll know she won't ever even care. Someday I'll find my way without a worry or any thoughts about today. Throw it away. But I'll know.
Green fields of grass so deep, I find it hard to keep my head from on its way to the sun. Like this I've seen before, right through an open door. It says for one on
riding your bike up on Mulholland Drive. Oh, I got a 5-minute rush from you in your faded blue jeans. How many years has it you've been alive? Oh, I'll take a guess. Rebecca, could it be 18, 19 or so? Ooh, Rebecca, will I ever know? No way. How would I fit in your life? How could you live with a man without change? Too strange and too poor to be trusted. Busted a couple of times, shaken a bit by the years on the road and the women I'd known. Rebecca, you'd have liked the name I gave to you. Ooh, Rebecca, if you only knew. Go home to your father's friends, stray sons, to your mother's friends, sweet ones, to the families, well-to-do and so well-established. And one day you might wake up to a shotgun. What does it come to? The sensible life, the wife of a poor Rebecca, reading magazines in a chic salon. Ooh, Rebecca, where's Rebecca gone? Ow, ow, win some, lose some, day in and day out it's humdrum. Give up, give in, give me a reason for living. Am I with someone? Am I alone? What does it matter? I'm on my own. When life was overbearing and a giant weight for me to carry, you helped me throw it all away. 'Cause I'm the two arms that can touch you and two eyes that have so much to see. I can breathe, I can laugh, I can swallow. I'm the world's best possible me. I can do anything that I want to. I can go anywhere that I please. I got nothing I gotta live up to. I'm the world's best possible me. Someone's tossed the dice. Wonder if I can be lucky twice.
There's so much at stake. All that I ask is an even break. I think I met her. I feel so strong. It feels like my year. I can't go wrong. I thought my world was crumbling and my folk rock boot heels were a stumbling. Now you're the diamond of my day. 'Cause I've got two arms that can touch you and two eyes that have so much to see. I can breathe, I can laugh, I can swallow. I'm the world's best possible me. I can do anything that I want to. I can go anywhere that I please. I got nothing I gotta live up to. I'm the world's best possible me. Best possible me. Best possible
You ought to do it, man, because you know exactly how it goes.
Now I see, should have run like a rabbit. Love comes along and I reach out and grab it. Doggone it, dag nabbit. Falling in love is a stupid habit. Falling in love, in love, in love. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe this doesn't happen to you. You could be a Superman. But if I see somebody new, I reach out and grab her hand. I reach out and grab a lot, 'cause I like what she has got. She don't need what I propose, so I gets it up the nose. 2, 3, 4. Doggone it, dag nabbit. Falling in love is a stupid habit. Doggone it, dag nabbit. Falling in love is a stupid habit. Falling in love, in love, in love. 1, 2, 3, 4. You could be the lucky type. You could have a fancy car. All the girls know what they like, and if you got it, you'll go far. When I speak out and say hello, the girls all tell me where to go. People, this goes on and on. What the heck have I done wrong? 2, 3, 4. Doggone it, dag nabbit. Falling in love is a stupid habit. Doggone it, dag nabbit. Falling in love is a stupid habit, etc.
Imagine me and you, I do. I think about you day and night. It's only right to think about the girl you love and hold her tight. So happy together. If I should call you up, invest a dime, and you say you belong to me, and use my mind, imagine how the world could be so very fine, so happy together. I can't see me loving nobody but you for all my life. When you're with me, baby, the skies will be blue for all my life. Me and you and me, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together. I can't see me loving nobody but you for all my life. When you're with me, baby, the skies will be blue for all my life. Me and me, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together. together, so happy together. So happy together. Thank you, everybody. Good night to the Turtles. Woo! Rock and roll. Let go. Good night.
Mirrors and drinks don't mix too well, and jukebox records don't play those wedding bells. Looking at the world through the bottom of a glass, all I see is a man who's fading fast. Tonight I meet that woman again. What I'd give for my baby to just walk in. Sit down beside me and say it's alright. Take me home and make sweet love to me tonight. Well, here I am again, mixing misery and gin, sitting with all my friends and talking with myself. I look like I'm having a good time, but any fool can tell that this honky-tonk heaven really makes you feel like hell. I light a lonely woman's cigarette. We start talking about the things we wanted to forget. Well, her life story and mine are the same. We both lost someone and only have ourselves to blame. Well, here I am again, mixing misery and gin, sitting with all my friends and talking with myself. I look like I'm having a good time, but any fool can tell this honky-tonk heaven really makes you feel like hell.
Write another song for the money, something they can sing not so funny. Money in the bank to keep us warm. Stick another grape in the juicer, or fill your guts with grease and get looser. You are what you eat, so eat it warm. Roll another joint for the giver. Get the giver high, he gets hipper. Stick it in his mouth and keep him warm. Electric yourself a baby and hold one. Hold her in your arms and keep her warm. Keep her warm. Keep her warm. Keep her warm. Keep her
Myself and I, you know we'd rather die than to hear it said that you don't love me. Me, myself and I, our hearts would break and we'd cry. There'd be more tears than all the stars above me. I'm not a romantic, my minds are all made up. Fill my cup if you said you love me. One of me is frantic, the other two are too. I could swim the Atlantic if only you said I love you. Me, myself and I would be one happy guy, and all it takes is thinking that you care. Myself and I would never tell a lie. On that we all agree, and that we need you. I'm not superstitious, not I, but four's my lucky number. It's always been that number, don't know why, but it's true. Even now when I think of it, it's all so clear to me that you and me make two, but you and me and me and me.
Take two, Opium Road. 1, 2, 3, 4.
for your soul. Then a voice said,
Hey Keith, it's Jesus here. You know, and I ain't no square. I mean, I've got these pictures of me and these statues. You know, they're everywhere. Well, I may seem I come from Liverpool, and then on the other hand, I may come from France. But if you don't get off that toilet, well, I'm just gonna have to dance.
All these nights that we've been a-dating, all these nights that we've been waiting, something tells me that the time is getting right. Oh, each time it gets to taste a little bit longer, my love for you gets a little bit stronger. I feel like I'm sitting on a barrel of dynamite. Oh, this could be the night I've waited for. This could be the night I'm gonna give all my love and more. When it comes to making love, well, she's a natural master. And each time I'm near her, well, my heart beats faster. And deep down inside, I know that the best is yet to come. Oh, I'm gonna pick her up about 6:45. I know we're gonna take a little trip to heaven. And if it's what she wants, then I'm gonna give her some. Oh, this could be the night I've waited for. This could be the night I'm gonna give her all my love and more. She says she'd like to make it to a drive-in movie. My mind begins to wonder where's a drive-in movie. We drive around for hours knowing the best is still yet to come. I make a little turn to a back road lane. She looks at me, smiles and says it's starting to rain. I look down and notice that my tank's on empty too. Whoa, the top's not working and the windshield wipers. I look around and see that we're surrounded by bikers. And something tells me that I really could use some gum. Whoa, then I look back and see a set of red lights blinking. And just for a minute I think it's a hot rod Lincoln. But then the bike is gone and now the girl has asked the cops to drive her home. Whoa, this could be the night I've waited for. This could be the night I've waited for. This could be the night. This could be the night.
Well, you guys, I hope you enjoyed that magical journey. I absolutely did. Wow, that really, it was something. Andy Cahan has had quite a lifetime of music, and he's got so many great stories, and he has a lot more too. We'll have him on again. He's going to talk about his book, but I hope you guys enjoyed that. It was wonderful doing this for you guys. Putting this thing together is an entire story in itself, but that's a whole nother show. So you guys take care. I will talk to you soon, and have a great, safe 4th of July, and peace out again.